Welcome back to the GSMC Sports Podcast brought to you by the GSMC Sports Network. I'm your host, TJ Mabarty. Just a reminder as we go into this final segment here to like and follow. It helps us out a lot. And be sure to use the chat to make this as interactive as a show as possible. For this final segment, we are going to be talking about the Golden State Warriors, who just lost another game last night. They fell just short to their in-state rivals, the Sacramento Kings. They lost 134 to 133. They just could not play an ounce of defense really throughout that whole game. Harrison Barnes, who was with them through their first championship, he dropped 39 points on them. I mean, shout out Harrison Barnes, 2 straight 30-plus point performances for him. Just crazy stuff, really came out of nowhere. Kings are a good team, but 134 points, and it really didn't look like many of them were even contested. The Warriors just horrible on that defensive side of the ball right now, which is very unlike them. Draymond Green is still coming back from his suspension, so he's not 100%. He's been on a minutes restriction as of late. Last night they did lift that minutes restrictions, and it just wasn't enough. The Warriors in general, I mean, they scored 133 points. They were really good from the three-point line, other than Klay Thompson, who was 2 of 7. Curry scored 33 points. I thought that down the stretch, it's going to be soiled a little bit, because he had the turnover in the last game of the possession that sort of sealed their fate. But I did think that he was pretty impactful through the final few minutes up until that point. And 33 points, he was nice. Jonathan Kuminga, their young forward that they drafted a couple years ago, he's really been coming around for them as of late. He added 31 points last night, and you can see there's definitely a lot of raw talent there. I mean, that's what he was viewed as coming into the league. A former G League guy is a raw talent player. But it's been an interesting fit because obviously the Warriors are always playing for championship contention, and that doesn't leave you a lot of room to really develop. And Kuminga has sort of struggled with his role. Him and Kerr have not fully seen eye to eye on what his role should be, but he, as of late at least, has seemed to be embracing his role player place on the team as of right now at least, and he is producing a lot for them, which is nice. But following this loss, the Warriors fall to 19-23 on the year. They are currently the 12th team in the Western Conference. So the question is there any way for the Warriors to salvage this season? They're just, despite being in the 12th seed, they are just 2 games out of the play-in tournament, and the teams ahead of them are the Houston Rockets and the Utah Jazz. Both of these, I think, underrated, fun, young teams, good league pass teams to watch, where I think that they're pretty entertaining. Rockets, if you catch them on an away game, maybe not quite as much. Maybe some of the most absurd home versus away splits I've seen from an NBA team in recent history. But that's also what happens when you have a younger group. But I do think that they're a fun watch. They're a good team. Alperen Şengün should be an all-star in my opinion. All of this to be said that these are teams that, especially when you're the Warriors and you see that logo, you see Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, you think that they should be better than these teams that are ahead of them right now. And I think it's still very possible, at least to sort of work your way back up into that top 10. I mean, that's not a crazy threshold, really, to think about the expectations of this franchise to crack the top 10 in the conference. They have had the hardest strength of schedule up to this point in the season, according to ESPN Analytics. So the season is going to lighten up some for them, but even if it does, And even if the Warriors were to make the play-in tournament, the next question is, well, is it even worth it? Like, how competitive can they be to come out of then the play-in tournament? Because it seems like if there's any shot they have at the postseason, it is through winning a couple extra games as a 7 through 10 seed. And then once you get to the playoffs, how much of a threat are you actually going to be to one of these top teams? Now, the very top of the Western Conference right now is the OKC Thunder and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Both very good teams right now that I even just praised yesterday during my NBA midseason awards segment. But they are younger. They're a little less mature, the Timberwolves in particular. So, I mean, nobody wants to play Steph Curry in a playoff series. Just ask the Kings that, scoring 50 points in Game 7. Not too much you can do about that. But my issue with them is I don't think that there's much room for growth as far as this season in particular to get better through acquiring other talent. And I think the reason being they have some less than ideal contracts on their books. You look at Draymond Green, the guy that they just signed to an $100 million contract this offseason when he hit free agency. The Sacramento Kings were supposedly in on him, as well as the Detroit Pistons and the Portland Trail Blazers. But I don't know how much they really would have been willing to give. I mean, if you're the Trailblazers and you are the Pistons, yes, you have cap space, so I suppose why not? But I saw NBC Bay State, that website, they were talking about how Draymond Green took so much less money to be with the Warriors. Like, it was more than $10 million that he would have gotten in other places. And I maybe have doubts, and maybe it's a little unfair, maybe it's revisionist history, but I just can't imagine one of those teams really paying $110 million for Draymond Green at this point in his career. He's still a very solid player when he's actually in check, you know. His defense, again, he was doing about all he could last night on the defensive end. No one else was really helping him out all too much. He added 11 assists. So he can still be valuable in some ways, but I still think that's just a lot of money for a guy who he can't score. I don't know if he had a field goal last night. I know he was entering the fourth quarter. He was 0 for 4 from the field. So I think that's just a lot of money to be paying up to a guy who can't get you any baskets. Klay Thompson is another one. He is on an expiring contract. He's making $43 million, so maybe just by the fact that he's an expiring contract, you could get something, but you probably have to attach assets to him if you want to go get. I mean, I don't know how strong the market really is anyways, especially for the Warriors, who they need defense, and Klay is not the 3-and-D guy that he was anymore. But it's not like Zach LaVine is out there and you bring him in and problems are solved, because yeah, he's a bucket getter, but I think that they already have those. So I'm not sure if there's a superstar like that. Andrew Wiggins has been a huge disappointment this year. He is making minimum $24 million for the next 3 seasons, and then he has a player option in 2027 where he would be making $30 million. Pretty sure he's going to pick that one up. But he's been bad. And last night, he was giving some offense, even though he was shooting something like 29% coming into the game from 3. He was fine on offense, but he's just nowhere near that defender that he was during their 2022 finals run. I was looking at cleaning the glass, and Golden State is 10.7 points per 100 possessions worse when he's on the court. Their defense gives up 11 more points on defense when he is on the court for a 100 possession span. That is in the first percentile, which means 99% of NBA players are effectively more impactful on defense when they're on the court. And that's just not what we saw at all. He was locking down Jason Tatum in that 2022 finals, and now he's unplayable at times. It really is sad, almost, really, because you never want to see someone's career sort of come into stardom, and stardom's maybe a little strong, but you know what I mean, and then falling out so quickly. I like a lot of the guys that they have on their bench. They're young guys. I like Jonathan Kuminga. Brandon Pojemski, I think, should be on an all-rookie team. Trace Jackson-Davis. They're not even playing Moses Moody anymore, but I was a fan of him early in the year when they were. And I think that it's a little bit telling where the Warriors are at right now by the fact that yesterday the All-Star starters came out, and all of the outrage was about the fact that Damian Lillard was starting in the East over Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell and Tyrese Maxey. Steph Curry isn't starting in the All-Star game. And with his popularity, his reputation, and with that fan base, the fan base that had Andrew Wiggins as an All-Star starter just 2 seasons ago, I think that says a lot. And it's not totally a statement on Curry, because Curry's still great. Notice how I didn't mention him in that list of people that I think are probably making too much money for them. But it goes to show where the Warriors are at right now. And I do think that they're probably done. They have a top 4 protected pick. It goes to Portland. They're definitely not going to go for the tank. But especially with this upcoming draft, it's not seen to be great. But that's kind of closer to what they are, I think, than winning the NBA Finals. And it's unfortunate. I mean, I'm a Celtics fan. There's a part of me that is still hurt by the Warriors stealing championship 18 from the Celtics. But basketball is fun when Steph Curry's on a good team and the Warriors are good. And that's just not really the case anymore. Again, it's not that they are at a full lack of talent, but this 2 timelines thing with the younger guys, assimilating them into the championship core, it just hasn't really panned out for them. And I think that with the contracts they have on the books, I think that they're really handicapped right now as far as being able to figure themselves out with this iteration of the Warriors. That is all I have for today. Thank you very much for listening to the GSMC Sports Podcast. Your support means a lot to us. Remember to like and follow, and we will be back on Monday, same time, 2 o'clock. So we will see you then.